This is from the Daily Mail. Quote, "It wasn't me. Footage shows millionaire tech entrepreneur's final words after being fatally shot by a trigger-happy cop while defending his home from a suspected burglar." I'm going to give you the basics of this story. Rajan Munensingh, I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, he's dead. He was 33 years old. He was a tech entrepreneur. He lived in South Austin. And apparently the story is he heard a noise and he thought someone broke into his house. So he took I believe he had an AR. He carried it around and it looked like he had it low ready. He checked the perimeter of his house when the cops pull up. The cops, within seconds, yell, drop the gun, and before he even finishes saying the word, bang, 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 killing this guy. He didn't die instantly. He fell to the ground and yelled, "It wasn't me, it wasn't me." They brought him to the hospital. He died. This guy was just legally protecting his own house, and these cops went nuts.
And Texas is an open carry state, so he had every legal right to do that. I think his family should actually sue the Austin Police Department for that.
Absolutely, but you know, even outside of open carry, he's on his own property. He's in his own house, and these cops just assume, without even stopping, without any questioning. The reason I want to talk about this story, for one, obviously with you, Kyle, here, but also because in the past couple of weeks, we had several incidents. I can't talk about most of them, but I can talk about the one where a shot was fired at some intruders who broke into my house. We've been swatted 15 times. We've had the bomb squad show up twice. This is what they are doing. So when I say they are trying to kill us, it's because they want this to happen. They're hoping that the first time they do it, knowing that we live in a castle doctrine state and we are armed, they're hoping that we go outside to inspect the screaming and the crazy noise and the cops get trigger happy. Fortunately, we have measures in place, and that stupid idea isn't going to work. But you take a look at what happens, and this is what's currently happening in modern politics.
Absolutely. Like, I agree with you 100%. They're trying to get us killed. They're trying to take out conservatives. They're trying to, this is an attack on the Second Amendment in a way, too. Because I believe everybody should have a gun, but then people are going to be afraid to go and purchase a gun if they know if they go and check their property that they're going to be shot and killed for simply doing what they're doing.
Yeah, these officers need to be fired immediately.
They need,
at least.
They don't need to only
they need
be
to
fired.
be charged.
They need to be charged.
Yeah, absolutely. Charge them. I absolutely agree with you. They took an innocent life that wasn't doing anything wrong, wasn't breaking any laws, was protecting his own home and property. They were clearly not trained right.
Exactly.
Do we have video of this?
Yeah,
he didn't point the gun at them. He didn't fire off a round. An officer who clearly didn't know what he was doing made. Some people would say he made a mistake. Some people would say that this.
Can you pull up the article because there's nothing graphic in this video that I have right here. You can just see the dude, Raj. Look how he's carrying his weapon. He's not even pointing it. He's holding it down at his side. He does lift it up, but this is before the full cops arrive. This was him checking his perimeter. When the incident in question happened, he was not pointing anything at anybody. He's on his own property, and they shoot him. But I want to say something too, because you said they're trying to take out conservatives. It's more than that. I mean, look, the right, they call me liberal. The left, they call me conservative. Luke's certainly not a conservative. Ian's certainly not a conservative. I'm obviously some weird centrist that has, a little bit of liberal, a little bit of conservative. But this is not a far right show. This is not a conservative show, but it's a show that tries to be honest. It's a show that calls out psychological operations from CENTCOM happening on Twitter. We'll call out the lies, we'll present the evidence, and just try and give people a real view. That is a threat to the narrative in the machine. But I'll tell you this, the fact that they've been swatting us and it's not working, another white pill moment. They can't stop us.
A question about this guy that was killed. Did he call the police himself and say that he thought there was an intruder on his property?
So my understanding of the story is that it was a neighbor. A neighbor saw him patrolling his property and said, It looks like there may be a break-in or something's happening. So the cops pull up. They see a guy in what looks like pajamas with a rifle, and he says, "Drop the gun!" Bang, bang, bang,
he
bang.
Might
bang.
have had a coyote on his property or something. Like no one knows why he was out there.
Apparently, he said something like he thought there was someone in his house. So the guard said in a call to dispatcher, he almost seems to be scared of something inside his house.
So what about the neighbor? The neighbor that instigated this, should that person be charged too?
Did you guys see the video? There's I think it was an old black man watering flowers, and the cops show up and they're like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Watering the flowers." And they're like, "Do you live here?" And he's like, "No, this is my friend's house." And they were like, "Why are you here?" And he's like, "My friend's out of town. They asked me to water their flowers. I live next door." And they're like, "You're under arrest." They arrest the guy.
Wow. Yeah, my response, none of your business, I plead the fifth.
And they were like, "Give us your ID." And the neighbors are like, "Oh, yeah, we didn't realize that was him. He is friends with this guy." And the cops are like, "Don't care." Then there's a video out of Florida where a guy who's legally blind is walking down the street with his walking cane in his pocket. he's not pitch black blind. He's blind to where everything's blurry, but he can walk without, hitting something. And so this lady cop, she's like, "What's in your pocket?" And he's like, holds it up. It's a walking cane. Are we done? And she goes, "Give me your ID." And he goes, "What? No, I don't have to." They arrest him. I'm sick of this, man.
Yep. I mean, Kyle, when you were turning yourself in, the police officers pepper sprayed you.
Yeah, I went up to the police car.
They pepper sprayed you?
They pepper sprayed Kyle when he was trying to
Wait, that night?
surrender to the police that night.
When you walked by?
So after the incident happened that night, I walked up to the police car, hands in the air. I told the officer, I was like, "I just shot somebody. I was pepper sprayed." I don't remember being pepper sprayed, but it's on video. So
Your adrenaline was probably wild.
Yeah, so I'm not disputing that's happened.
He just sprays you.
I read the police report. The police report said they pepper sprayed me and pointed a gun at me.
Wow. They're not there for you, and they don't care. They're not there for anybody.
For the state.
Just to think, the police could have killed me that night with my hands in the air if I didn't step away from the police car.
Yeah, I think in any sane society.
Well, me and Tim got guns pulled on us by Chicago police officers.
That was fun.
That's Chicago police.
I took out a camera, and they thought, the camera could have been something. They literally freaking cocked a gun.
Well, so we get surrounded by like 12 vehicles in Chicago. They start walking up to the car. It's an illegal search, in my opinion. Banging on it, saying, "Get out of the car, guns drawn." They pull us out. They frisk us. They took our credit card numbers. They wrote them down. They wrote down passport numbers from our IDs. And they started trying to find secret compartments in the car. They were banging on our equipment, thinking it was like fake. And then all of a sudden, they cuffed me. And then this cop...
They cuffed me too?
Yeah. This cop walks up and he goes, "You matched the description." And then he makes a gesture and then they uncuff me and they're like, "Get out."
Meanwhile, the car we had New Mexico plates. And we were in Chicago. And I'm like, match the description of what? Was there a crime with the car with the Chicago plate with a New Mexico plate in Chicago? That made absolutely no sense at all. 12 squad cars. It was again
Crazy.
Another incident that we had to deal with. One of many that I had to deal with that is just absolutely draconian and insane. And we need pushback against these officers that are just following orders, doing what they're told. I don't understand people who could back the blue. I don't understand individuals who could still do this after everything that's been happening, to be honest with you.
I don't think it's police on their own. I think police are inherently good. I think the law enforcement, I think they go in there to do good things. I'm pro blue.
I disagree.
That's okay, but I think I'm pro blue. I think it's in the leadership. I think the leadership, there are like appointed chiefs who are appointed by these liberals, and these officers are scared to do the right thing. I mean, look at the officer who was fired for donating to my legal defense. He was fired. I don't think it's necessarily the officers. But I think it's the sergeants who are maybe like sucking up to the supervisors and people in the department trying to get a promotion, not the officers who are out there doing the right thing on a daily basis.
But you're right about the supervisors. But in terms of the police in general, people are people, right? There are good cops, the ones that were defending you. And then there are bad cops who just don't care and will just follow orders.
But just like in any career, there's bad journalists, but there's also good journalists. Not all cops are bad.
But there's also very few. There's also very few
true.
good journalists, and let's be honest here. There's also very few good cops here. A lot of them are order followers. A lot of them predominantly generate revenue for the state. And in many instances in my life, and in many instances of the average American's life, when they need them, they're not there for them. There are a few instances where they are, and they deserve to be commended and respected, but very rarely. I mean, there's laws on the books here in the United States that says the police officers do not have a duty to protect you. And there's been multiple cases, especially with my friend Joe Lazito in New York City, where there was a lunatic, a mass murderer running around that was stabbing my friend Joe in the head. Police officers were standing there watching by. Then, of course, when Joe took him down, police officers took credit for taking him down, even though they never did. And then they claimed Joe was a victim when Joe was the actual hero of that day. Joe Lazito survival story. Look it up. Be prepared to be shocked to see what police officers could do.
So I'm looking at what's going on a lot now with these cops, and a lot of them are following orders. COVID, I think, proved too many of these cops will destroy you for their own personal gain.
Yeah.
We saw state troopers go into a bar in New York because the bar wanted to open, and New York was like, nope, you got to shut down. A block away, it was a green zone where businesses were allowed to operate. So the bar owner is basically like, okay, we're not selling anything more. It's a hangout. Everything's free. So the local cops were like, I'm not going anywhere near this. You'll destroy my life. My neighbors will get mad at me. So they called in state troopers to come and block the doors. And those cops were like, don't care. You can't live your life.
Kyle, yeah,
but I want to make sure I say this too, because it's not fair to only highlight the bad. I do want to tell a story of when I was in Chicago and some guy tried mugging me, And out of nowhere, 3 cops popped out and grabbed this guy and slammed him into an iron fence. And this is like a 55-year-old fat white cop with gray hair grabbed the guy by the collar, spun him around, slammed him into a fence, and screamed, "Not in my town!" in his face. And they asked me if I was okay, asked me to file a report. And they legitimately popped. That was a rare experience for me. But I don't want to sit here and just be like, all cops are bad. All cops are bad. I've had good experiences, but I've had too many bad experiences.
They need to not be empowered to make those bad decisions. And when they make bad decisions and when they make bad calls, they should be held responsible for it. And let's be honest, rarely do they ever get held responsible for it. You look at what happened in Uvalde. You look at what happened in Parkland. Police officers there literally stood down.
Well, those guys are getting held accountable, aren't they? Like they're getting in trouble, getting criminally charged.
Yes, but those are 2 egregious, mainline, big stories that the world has heard of. There's other stories that didn't make the narrative, that didn't make national headlines, where we see this time and time again. As far as Uvalde, you have to fight to get justice in these particular cases. You shouldn't. We should have a system where if someone makes a mistake or someone hurts someone else, they actually get held responsible. There shouldn't be victims' family members in Parkland coming forward and demanding justice for the officers that were just standing by with their hands in their pocket. That's what I'm calling for. Again, judge a person by their character, not by who they are. But at the end of the day, I think we have a core systemic corruption issue.
You mean judge them by their character and who they are, but not their job.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think in some instance, like most departments, there is a corruption issue. Like we don't get good sheriffs elected. There are a lot of great sheriffs out there, but look at the county I grew up in, Lake County, Illinois. I think that sheriff is as corrupt as they get. I think it's a department issue with the heads. I don't think it's necessarily the officers. I think it may be the officers scared to disobey out of fear of losing their pension, their job, because they have families they need to provide for.
But that's the same argument that a lot of German SS officers were making when they were putting people into camps, right?
They didn't want to be in camps themselves. They said, we'll go along with it. So I'll say, you're right. It's the leadership. And a lot of these guys don't know. And this is another big challenge. I remember asking an active service member 15 years ago, if you were instructed to shoot a civilian walking down the street by your commanding officer, would you do it? And they said, yeah, that sounds like a really crazy question, right? Like as if to imply a military officer or some soldier is so stupid and so brainwashed that they would kill an innocent person. But think about what this means. If you are in an active conflict situation and you are ordered, stop that person. This could be a person armed with a weapon we don't know about. This could be a person who's got a bomb that we don't know about. They're telling you you have to stop them because you trust the people you're with not to hurt innocent people. So this is the issue with police, right? Just sorry to make the point. You got a regular cop who's like 24, 25 years old, and he's told you need to arrest this guy. He's not going to stop and say, well, my superior officer told me I need to arrest you, but I want to hear your side of the story. No, he's going to be like, this guy's dangerous, and they want me to stop him. So I agree with you on supervisors, but there's got to be some degree of pushback with a story like this where the homeowner's killed. That dude should not have just jumped out and shot him. That's not an issue of superior officers.
No, I agree with that instance. And you got to think about this for a second. Police officers responding to a lot of these scenes, they're getting told what's happening via radio and a lot of miscommunication. Like they hear, it may get lost in the connection. You're talking to 911. They're talking to the person sitting next to them. They're relaying to the officer. The officer's adrenaline's pumping. They're going lights and sirens to get to that situation. They could be hearing there's a man with a gun, this, that, and that. And then they get there. There's a person with a gun. They don't know what's happening. And then it could also be how the officers train. I don't know how Austin PD trains their officers, but...
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.